Hey everybody, welcome to the Robert A. Harris and Lone Star Elite Outdoors. As promised, I'm bringing y'all another really cool video of all the trail cam pics from October 18th of 2025 until January 25th of 2026. This is the East Feeder. Y'all can go look at the other video of the West Feeder, and let's get into it. Okay, the first picture we got is of a buck that should actually be a really good buck, at least a good 8-pointer, but it looks like he doesn't have either brow tine, and he might be missing his G3 on his left side. I've got another picture of this buck, and it's about the same angle, so you just can't tell. It's something to note too. Here in my county where I'm hunting, I am one county off of the South Texas line, according to Parks and Wildlife, where the rules change. So we have the 13-inch rule here in the county that I'm hunting, which means that you can shoot one spike or unbranched antler buck, and then you can shoot one buck that has an inside spread of over 13 inches. This deer looks like he's probably, just from the angle, maybe 12 inches. I don't know. Don't get a straight on view of him. He might not even be quite 12 inches, but anyway, he could grow up to be a pretty decent buck. So we'll just have to wait and see. Here's a picture of a group of hogs out in the daytime, which I talked about the position of your cameras in the West Feeder video. Here you can see the glare on it, but still got a pretty good picture of the pigs. So this is one of the groups. Of course, they're hitting both feeders, but you can tell I've got a lot of pigs. Here's another shot of them here too, and then we go into, this is a little spike, young deer, 1.5 years old. He doesn't hardly have any horns at all. He should have more than that, even at 1.5 years, I think, but I don't know. Here's that other picture of that same buck from before. You know, his ears are kicked back, makes him look a lot wider than he is. He's definitely tall. He's definitely got, some long G2s, and that one G3 is pretty long, but he's missing his G3 on his left side, and I think he's missing both brow tines, which, makes him a 5-pointer. If it's slick and not broke off, it's a really good management buck to take if he was legal. But like I said, here in my county, they got to be 13 inches or you just can't shoot them. Here's another picture of that little spike. He's literally just a little deformed deer. So, he would have been a good one to shoot this year. Here's a picture of the deer that I got so confused on the West Feeder pics. He's a little 5-pointer. He's missing his brow tine on his right side. There's a couple of other deer that look just like him, but one of them's not missing his brow tine. So anyway, it's nice to see that he's coming to both feeders. So he's pretty much lives on the place. This doe, I show y'all a picture of this doe simply because this is a classic example of probably a 3.5-year-old or more old doe. She's very mature. She's very healthy. Not a yearling. She's had several fawns, probably 2 or 3 fawns for sure. Just a really, really healthy deer. Moving on, here's another picture of probably that little scrub buck, that little 5-pointer. Maybe the little 6-pointer, don't know. Then we move on. Here's a daytime pic of a big old boar hog, which is kind of unusual, them big boar hogs coming out in the middle of the day, but there's no hunting pressure over here. There's no pressure at all. The rancher, he visits the property to take care of his cows, but he's come down here in the woods very often to check on things. And so, these animals, they don't have any pressure whatsoever. I'm in and out of there, more in the off season than I am during deer season. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hunt a whole lot this year, but anyway, they coming out in the daytime. So there's a lot of pictures of pigs in the daytime. Here's a picture of 4 deer. Looks like some does and yearlings. This is the most deer I've got on camera at the feeder at one time, which is kind of odd. The last place that I hunted, I mean, there was, 10, 15 deer at a feeder at one time. This is the most I've got is 4. So, might not be a lot of deer over there, but there are some older deer, and, we'll see. We're going to start feeding year round, and we'll see what we can do with them. Here's a picture of a little gray fox. He's right down close to the camera there. The other feeder had a couple of them that hit it on a regular basis, but I got a picture of that one on there for a couple of photos. Here's a buck here. I've only got 1 or 2 pictures of him. This is a classic 10-pointer, what looks like to me, classic 10, and I just don't think he's probably 2.5 years old. It's hard to tell by this picture when they duck their head like that, their back kind of bows up. It kind of makes it hard to judge the age of them. But if he's got his brow tines and everything, it makes him a 10. He's probably wide enough just looking at that one ear that you can tell. But I'd have to see him in person to see if he was actually 13 inches. Here's another picture of a doe in that glare. I just thought it was a really cool picture, even with the glare on it like that. It kind of highlights her really well, and it's just a cool picture. Here's another picture of probably a little 8-pointer, or what should be an 8-pointer. Can't tell if he's got brow tines or not. But it's a totally different deer than what I've been seeing. So, there's a lot of different bucks. And of course, the local cows. And we're going to get more into these cows here in a minute and the destruction that they cause and everything to all your feeders and your cameras especially. But we'll get into that in a minute. I got another picture of a coyote, beautiful coyote. We're going to be doing some predator calling, some coyote calling this spring. So we'll be bringing y'all some videos on that. It ought to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. Hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can keep track of everything I'm doing. I'm going to be putting out a lot of videos. I'm spending as much time in the woods as I can. So, and then we're also working on my boat. So we're going to be putting out some fishing videos too. So y'all subscribe. Here's another spike that I've never seen. I think this is the only picture I've got of him, unless he might have been one of them 4 under the feeder a while ago, but this little bitty spike here, this is a very, very young deer. It's probably a yearling. He's only 6 months old or so. And, he just this is one of the spikes that needs to be left alone and let him grow up next year and see what he can actually produce. These little bitty spikes that are so little, that are 6 months old, you never know. Just a quick story about a spike. I had an old boss of mine that raised deer, and he had bought some deer from, I believe, Minnesota, and he bought a spike, and the next year, in his first set of antlers at 1.5 years old, he was 16 points and 16 inches inside. So you never know. Of course, that was a lot of protein feed, but you never know what a spike's actually going to turn into. They do have potential if they are 6-month-old spikes. 1.5-year-old spikes, they should be branched by then. That's why Texas Parks and Wildlife says that you can shoot spikes, because most spikes are 1.5 years old. After that, they're going to be little 3s and 4s and 5-pointers. They're not going to amount to much. But if they're 6 months old and you leave them alone, they have potential. You never know. And not saying that all of the 1.5-year-old spikes won't have potential, but Parks and Wildlife says that it's less likely for them to grow into a full mature buck with a decent set of antlers if they're 1.5 years old and just spikes. So moving on, this is a picture that I put on here because honestly, I've zoomed it in and I can't really tell exactly what that is. So y'all leave that in the comments and tell me what you think that is. You know, it's probably a coon if I had to guess, but I just really can't tell. And I've got another picture up here in a minute that is about the same, but it's something on the feeder leg, but we'll see that in a minute. Here's a good picture of a doe. This is a different doe than the one we talked about before. This is an older doe. She's probably 4.5, 5.5 years old. Big body, big hips, sway back, you know, big front shoulders, a little bit bigger neck. You can just tell, you know, sagging belly, and you can just tell that this is an older doe. This is the type of doe that, you know, if you're managing a place, these are the types of does that you want to take. You know, 4.5, 5.5-year-old does, you want to go ahead and get them out because they've only got a couple of years left. And, you know, finding those 5.5, 6.5-year-old does is hard to do because, you know, the most does you're going to see primarily is going to be the younger does. But the younger does doesn't mean that they don't have the genetics and stuff to produce really good offspring either. So, you know, if you're gonna do some management and take some does, you got doe permits or whatever, this is the type of doe you want to go for. Here's that picture of whatever it is on that feeder leg. I zoomed in. I can't tell. It's too blurry. I really don't know. It looks like it's looking at you. Might be a fox. Might be a coon. You know, the tail, if you look real close, the tail might be barred, so it might be a coon. I don't know. Y'all leave it in the comments and tell me what y'all think it is. And, of course, here we go. We got the local cows. They're coming. They're coming to destroy my camera. That is the intent on that cow's face right there, is to figure out what this thing is and destroy it. So the next picture is its buddy, who is literally working on the camera. And the next picture, you can tell the camera has been moved. It is no longer looking at the feeder. It is now looking at the tree that my stand's in. And you can tell that there's a cow right there on the side of it. So, I mean, they are just destructive. We will be building pens like I talked about in the West feeder picture video. We will be building pens around all these feeders, and we'll be bringing that to you and how we're doing it and everything too. But yeah, cows are just destructive critters. So, and then there's another one right there, but I put this in there to show you the angle of the camera now. You know, it's looking at the tree. You can see my ladder going up to my ladder stand there and everything. But dang cows, I tell you. Then you got to worry about, you know, somebody's dog. You know, this is one. I got two pictures of just a regular dog. This is one of them here, and there's another one later on. But you know, they can come in, run your deer off, chase your cows and stuff. It's not good to have dogs. I'm gonna be asking around and see if I can figure out whose dogs they are. But here's another picture of a really nice, healthy doe. Really wished I would have went over there and shot some deer, but I just, with work and everything else I had going on, I just did not have time this year. But that's all going to change, y'all. I must be spending a lot more time in the woods, so and on the water. Here's a picture of a deer that I showed y'all in the West feeder pig video that is just very unique. He's got all these white spots all over him, and I've never seen anything like that. You know, it almost looks like he's roughed up, but it's actually white spots. And, you know, I don't know what causes that. So if y'all have any thoughts on that or anything stuff, put it in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what this anomaly is. This is a buck here that I'm almost positive he's legal. Don't know exactly which buck he is. I zoomed in on him. He looks like just an 8-pointer, but he's real tall and he's got brow tines, and that's just a really, really nice deer. And from the angle of the picture, it's hard to tell, but he looks like he's outside his ears. So I think this is the legal buck. One of the only legal bucks that I for sure think is a legal buck that I saw in these pictures. But really nice deer. I wished I'd have been there. And of course we got coons. Like I said in the other video, you know, we're going to be doing some coon eradication too. And I'm going to put lights on all my feeders so I can hunt at night. And Along with my bow, I'll be carrying a 22 with me, and we're gonna do some coon eradication. Might try to do some coon calling. I've never called coons before. I've called coyotes and bobcats and foxes, but I've never called coons. So we might try that. That might be pretty fun. I've been watching some other videos from some other people doing coon calling and stuff and everything. So we might try that. See what happens. We'll let y'all know. Just another good picture of a pretty mature doe. It's probably her yearling in the background there, behind her there. But I think it's kind of neat how these depending on the time of day and the lighting and everything, these cameras, they'll take a really nice color photograph, and then they'll take kind of one that looks like black and white. I haven't modified these pictures at all. I just think that's kind of unique too. Here's another picture of that 10-pointer that I really think is just under legal. Maybe not. Might be a totally different deer. I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think. And of course, here we go. It's that dog again, or another dog. It's hard to tell, but definitely got to talk to some landowners and see where these dogs are coming from. Here's another picture of a buck that I haven't seen before either. Looks like he's got 5 on this side, on his left side that's facing us here. Can't see the other antler at all. Might be a tying off the other antler that I'm seeing right there is a G3, but anyway, just some potential anyway. He's not a very old deer, 2.5 years old or so. So maybe 3.5, but I doubt it. I think he's 2.5. Anyway, if you look in the very bottom of this picture, straight down from the trunk of the tree, you can see the head of a fox. It's pretty cool. Get different animals on the camera. There's right off the bottom of the ladder there to the left of the ladder, you can see a streak. It's a fox that's running through there too. Then we move over, and on the left hand side of the screen there's a bobcat. So that's the first picture I've gotten of a bobcat. So that was kind of neat. And of course, then there's an armadillo. A lot of armadillos. Got some shorts about the armadillos and stuff too. And then here's another picture of an armadillo. So there's gonna be a lot of armadillos. If y'all like an entertaining story, go to my Story Time Around the Fire Table playlist and watch some of those videos, and watch that one about the giant killer, and you'll understand about what I'm talking about here. So they're interesting critters. And then of course, here we go again, the cows. The cows just have to mess with the camera. They just can't leave it alone. And the result is not looking even at the tree anymore. They've already moved it some more. But here's one of them big boar hogs. Even with the camera moved away from the feeder, literally the camera's 90 degrees to the feeder now. And even with it moved as far as it is, I'm still picking up pictures of wildlife. So that's kind of cool. They're just coming in right here, basically where I walk to come in. So might have to change that up. But anyway, so here's another picture in the daytime of a pig. So it looks like a boar hog. And then a couple of them going out middle of the day. Look at that, 2:15. And on this trail camera, the date and times are correct. So the other one, it wasn't, but on this one it is. So 2:15 in the afternoon, got a couple of pigs in the middle of the day, out there walking around looking for something to eat. A couple of does, there again, middle of the day. And I'll leave y'all on a note of, here we go again. They just can't leave the camera alone. But anyway, that wraps up 2025, 2026 deer season. Hopefully in the future, we're going to be doing a lot of hunting and a lot of calling and a lot of fishing and a lot of everything to bring y'all. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really enjoying this YouTube journey. I hope y'all enjoy the videos that I'm putting out. Leave me some comments about that and tell me what kind of content you want, and we'll put out as much as we can and as best as we can. And you know, y'all like and subscribe and help me grow this channel. And, you know, I've got a lot of tips and tricks and safety stuff. I used to be a hunter ed instructor, so I've got a lot of knowledge, and I've spent a lot of time in the woods. So y'all let me know exactly what you want and how you're liking the videos that I'm putting out. I appreciate it, y'all. Have a great day.